The following is a conversation with David Anderson, founder and chairman of Colonial Chemical, a very successful manufacturer of specialty surfactants with plants in Tennessee and Saudi Arabia. You'll see that about 5 minutes into the interview, I was hit on my side by a power failure. Our backup generator kicked in, but that caused a little bit of a problem with my video. However, I'm going ahead and putting this out there. The video on David's side is fine. My side, there's a bit of a lag between the video and the audio, which some of you may be averse to, in which case I would advise you to close your eyes and still listen to what David has to say, because he really takes us back to the very beginning and some of his very, very early childhood motivations to get into the chemical industry, and then how he built this incredibly successful and now very well-known company to what it is today. I learned a lot. I hope you will too. And so now here is my conversation with David Anderson. All right, so we're here with David Anderson, Colonial Chemical. We're going to spend about an hour together today, and we've got a lot to talk about, so let's see where it goes. Welcome, David.
All right. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate the opportunity. Appreciate to be the first guinea pig in this process with you.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah, first time for both of us. All right, so I have a bunch of questions here, and David's had a chance to look at some of them. I want to start by just going right back to the very beginning, right? You're sitting around the dinner table, right? You're 5-10 years old, however old you were. I just want to get a sense of, like, what was the conversation about in those days, and how, if at all, did that conversation affect your career choice, how you went on to make a living, and how you kind of thought about that?
Well, I think one of the things is that I was the youngest of 5 children, and my oldest brother was 13 years older than me. So wow. To me, making money was always a thing because, you know, they were always older than me, making money to go places, to buy things, and then eventually to buy cars. And eventually, you know, before I was 10, my oldest brother was married and moving out of the house. So it was a very, you know, I think I was always cognizant of the fact that you needed money to do things, and that you needed to make money. So, you know, we learned to make money early, cutting grass, washing cars, shining shoes, and all sorts of things growing up.
Okay, so peer pressure, sibling pressure, or maybe a good example set by the family environment. So when did chemicals come into the picture? What was the first, if you can remember, like the first time you thought about chemicals and a way of making a living in that kind of environment?
This is gonna kind of shock you, because my father worked for DuPont, and then he went on to work for FMC in quality control. My brother went to work for a surfactant company that you may remember called Alkalac.
Sure.
And he was working there when I was 7 years old. So I'll just say that I owe my start and guidance in the business to my older brother, Charles. And at times, I mean, I can remember at 8 or 9 years old going to the Alkalac plant in Fairfield, Maryland, and going in there with him. He used to have to go to New York from time to time. We had a plant up in Ossining, New York. I went with him there a couple of times. So I'm going to say, you know, at 8 or 9 or 10, I knew about chemicals, and I was going into chemical plants then that young.
Wow. So, all right, it was in the blood for sure.
Yeah. Well, it really was. It's something I've been exposed to all my life. If I didn't go into chemicals, it was going to be go to work for the telephone company, because my other brother worked there, and I had a couple of cousins and an uncle that all worked for the phone company, and so we had some ties to the Chesapeake and Potomac Telephone Company.
Wow, sure. Well, yeah, interesting choice. So I think, yeah, I think chemicals was, at least given your record so far, was probably the way to go.
Yeah, well, considering what's happened to the telephone that's on the wall or on your desk, it was probably a pretty good. I'd have ran out of steam about 10 years ago, right?
Right, exactly.
So
Brilliant. Okay,
that's a
so
that's a
you mentioned kind of odd jobs and ways to earn money when you were even quite young. So do you remember your first job? Like, what was the first thing you did to get
yeah.
paid?
We had a guy that lived up the street, owned a bunch of trucks, and his name was Edward Smith, and he gave all of my brothers jobs when we first started out. I mean, and he gave me a job at 14. I would go on Saturdays and wash trucks. I would go during the week and fuel up trucks with him. Later on, learning how to change tires and stuff like that. And Ed was a guy that you could learn from because he never stopped working until the job was done. It wasn't, we're going to start at this time and leave at this time. It was you started and you worked until it got done. And that's kind of one of the things that I think was really, prevalent to me. And he worked long hours to make this business go. And I guess I just grew up with that knowing. So, I'd say that he was a big influence on kind of work ethic, and all my brothers learned from him, and all my brothers have a great work ethic, as does my sister. She didn't work for him, but my other three brothers did work for him, and it was quite a learning experience.
Wow, and that was his own company.
Yeah, that was his own company. He owned a fleet of trucks. They hauled liquids. He had some tank trucks. He had some flatbed trucks that hauled pipe and things like that. So, yeah, we would go to his shop yard and do work on these trucks, change tires, anything he needed done on them. Other than the major stuff, change oil, those sorts of things we did. And he taught us to do it as young kids.
Cool. So I want to dig into something. You and I have swapped emails on and off over over the months, maybe years, about your teenage and early adult years, and you've certainly talked very eloquently about the music and that era, that environment, and how much you were into it and enjoying it. So just tell me what it was like back then. Give people a sense. There may be one or two folks listening to this that are a little bit younger than you, so give them a sense of what that was like, and kind of, and how do you think young people today have it worse or better than what you had back then?
Yeah, I don't think people get together as much now as they used to back then. I mean, we would get together. We went to football games together at high school. A lot of what we did, was being with friends, going to high school dances, football games, and a lot of life circled around the family and high school activities and working. But, there was a lot less, I don't know, strife between people. I don't know. We all seemed to have less opinion back then and more wanting to be part of the group, not, separated from the group. So there was a lot of, getting along to get along, I'd say.
Yep.
But, there were certain places to kind of hang out, meet with your friends, have a bite to eat. And, I'll say just kind of limit it. We were all about fast cars and having a girlfriend and hanging out, and that was kind of what we did, and doing good in school. I mean, playing sports and things like that.
So more of a sense of community than maybe today.
I think so now. Kids have so many things to be distracted for, and that sort of thing. But back then, it was a lot of coming together and doing things as a group.
Yeah. So so what about the soundtrack, the music of that time? What's some of your favorite recollections?
I think it was all. I think it was all about being happy. There were a lot of songs then, as I told you. I never have forgiven the British for all the British rock music that came in, pushed out all the soul music, and so I think it was pretty happy music, and it was pretty much about getting along. As it got on to later in the 60s, early 70s, there was a lot of strife about the Vietnam War. So then even some of the groups started to come out, like War and the Temptations and people like that, started singing about some of the division in the country. And I'd say that's kind of when things started to go, people started to separate a little bit more, but I'd say, 50s, 60s, people were all about, propping up America, I guess, talking about America and how great they were and what they were going to do and how they were going to, do bigger and better things. And then kind of the 70s started to split that open a little bit. And probably that's why we're here where we are today. It may have gone back together some in the early 90s, but, it's kind of separated again. So was much, to me, it was much happier times. People got along a lot better than they do now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, look, I was growing up in the 60s and 70s in England, and honestly, during that time, a lot of what was very popular on the TV was American programs, and we, Dallas, for sure, was huge. Starsky and Hutch, Kojak, Hawaii Five-O, all the I like the cop programs, but there was, that's what turned me on to the U.S. I mean, and I saw a lot of positivity there, actually, and a lot of patriotism, pride in the country, all that stuff. And that just, to me, said, all right, one of these days, I got to get over there and do something. And so that when the opportunity came up to go to work, here, I took it, and obviously ended up staying here ever since. So,
right. Well, it was a much more patriotic country, I would say, certainly in the early 60s. And again, it was about, I think people felt that there was a good sense of opportunity if you worked hard.
Yeah, for sure. So what about, in your view, what do you see today that young people have it a lot better? That are some things better today for folks like teenagers, young adults versus back then?
Yeah, I think the technology advancements have been great. It makes life a lot easier. I think they have an opportunity to share more ideas, but I just don't see the personal interaction. It's more interaction over the text messages, or interaction over playing games and things of that nature. I'd like to see them all get outside a little bit more and, do things outside and, pick up baseball games, pick up football games, pick up basketball games, the kind of things that, we did.
Yeah, and put the phone down. Put the phone down and turn it off. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Get more involved with each other and know a little bit more about the other guy, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Colonial Chemical. Give me the elevator pitch. What do you guys do? And so, what are you particularly proud of?
Yeah, so for the most part, I guess we're specialty surfactant manufacturers. We're primarily focused on the personal care industry. That's about 55% of our business. Our other markets are household, industrial cleaning, metalworking, lubricant additives, and oil field chemicals. And I'd say the thing that I'm most proud of is that we are a customer-focused organization. We do what the customer wants. You want it at a certain pH, we're going to give it to you. You want it in a certain container, we're going to get it to you there. In my career, I guess, I'm certainly proud of the quality of the products that we've turned out. We've made it something that we're really heavily tracking, is the customer acceptance of our product, shipment after shipment, and we're at 99.9% on 2023 and 99.9% in year-to-date 2024. So we have very little rejection of our product. we try to straighten out with the customer ahead of time what they're looking for, and then meet that expectation. So we're trying to do things right the first time is a big thing. So that's certainly something I'm really proud on. But I guess in a lot of organizations, I've seen. I kind of say it like the chairs are facing inward. Everything they're talking about in the organization is about what impact it has on their organization. And I'd like to think that if you look at our business, we've got the chairs facing outward at the customer, and we're
Nice.
trying to do what's right for the customer, and then that'll take care of itself within the organization.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, that's a great
So
point.
I think another thing, that I'd like to say that I'm very proud of is that I've been able to turn the business over to the next generation. So my kids, children didn't come up in the business. They worked in the business. They helped grow the business to what it is today. David, who's the president now, he was here in high school and worked college summers, and he went to Japan and worked in another industry for 5 years. But when he came back, he volunteered to be my first paid salesperson. We had, at that point, had done business with distributors and manufacturers reps.
Fantastic.
We got a little noise there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's we're
But
we're having electrical problems, but we're still going. I got a backup generator. It keeps kicking in here, so the one day we have problems, right? It's just crazy. All right.
What a day! So, he went up to New Jersey, which he wasn't totally familiar with, and started selling for the company there, and then helped me build the sales force there. And Christine as well, who's involved in the business. She worked at the company through high school and college, and she traveled with me a bit. So they were all very, very familiar with that. And I'd say, I'm proud to be able to turn the company over with a future to the next generation. And I look back at one of my competitors was McIntyre Chemical
Yep.
back in the day.
Yeah.
And as Bill McIntyre got older, he sold the business, because he really had nobody to turn the business over to for the future. And I'm glad that we are able to. You don't build these businesses on your own. There are a lot of people that help you, and to sell it to somebody who maybe isn't going to run it or treat them the same way you have, I think it's unfair to the people that you do work with.
Yeah, that's a huge step. That is a huge step to get it into the next generation. That's a lot of congratulations on that for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll see if they can. We'll see if they can do it. The Steppens have done a good bit of it up until this point, I guess.
Yep.
And your old company, Pilot, has moved it along
Yep.
from generation to generation. So it's possible. You have to plan for it. And as I said to someone, I've done more planning for my death than I have for my life. So.
All right, interesting perspective. Okay, maybe we'll get to that.
Spent more.
We'll get to that towards the end. But yeah, that's neat.
Spent more money doing it.
Yes, right, absolutely. Oh, good. All right, so the origin story. I want to know how you started it, but I'm really interested in what was the very first moment that you can remember where you said to yourself or to someone else, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna start a chemical company."
Well, yeah, I had worked for Alcalac, and it got sold to Rio Tinto Zinc.
Yep.
I came down here and went to work for a company called Alco Chemical. It got sold to National Starch.
Right.
And during that time, we bought a central station alarm company. And now, by that time, we had 3 children, and we wanted to, I felt like I needed to stay in town more. I traveled so much for other companies, and then I bought this Central Station Alarm Company, which is a commercial alarm company, and it started to grow. And I think about a year into it, I told my wife, I said, I got to get back in the chemical industry. This business is too hard. And so I have a very supportive wife, and she allowed me to get started in the chemical business. And the way we started is there were a couple of guys in Dalton by the name of Bobby and Billy Cady.
Yep.
And they were some real good North Georgia boys, and they had a company called Standard Adhesives. So they wanted to make product that I had sold them before at alkyl sulfates, and I put them in touch with a guy by the name of Peter Boroff, who was an engineer, and he built a batch CSA plant there for them. And they used the alkyl sulfates in the carpet industry, and I was able to use the rest of what they could make to sell into the personal care and household and industrial industry.
Nice.
So that was the deal that we set up. The alarm company provided me with an income to support 3 and then finally 4 children during that period of time. And I put a phone on my assistant's desk and said, if anybody calls, answer this Colonial Chemical, write down what they said. So certain days of the week I would be out on the road trying to sell for Colonial, and other days I'd be trying to manage the alarm company.
Wow.
Eventually I got a general manager in there, and I think in 1994, 96, once we built the new plant, I was able to turn that over to him, and we did not sell it until 2000. So even after I told my wife I needed to get in the chemical business, back in the chemical business, the alarm company went on for another 14 or 16 years.
All right. So it paid
yeah.
it paid a few bills over the years, huh?
Oh yeah, it really did. So yeah, Peter was a really smart guy, and he was a real mentor at Alkalac, and he put that plant together, which is still running today, making alkyl sulfates for a company called T-Arco.
Yep. Right. So, okay, going back, where did the name come from? Colonial.
Oh man, we were sitting around trying to think of what we should call the company, and we acted like we wanted to be in business for a while, so we wanted something that sounded like we had, just didn't start it up. So that's where Colonial came from.
All right. Good enough.
So we weren't smart enough to look through all the things. We couldn't find a Colonial Chemical, but there was in Tabernacle, New Jersey, Colonial Chemical Company, and they're still in business today. They do some acids and things of that nature. I think they do some small packaging. So we, I guess, maybe borrowed the name from them, but then Colonial Chemical Solutions, who we sometimes get confused with, borrowed the name from us. They're the big distributor out of Savannah, Georgia. So there's 3 of us that I know of in the industry.
Right. All right. Well, you're the best known, at least in my world.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. We're the manufacturer. I mean, we're manufacturing the products. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question, you can answer it whichever way you want. Was there a time you didn't think you'd make it, and talk us through that, or was there a time when you thought, yeah, we're making it? It's, we're over the hump.
Well, I felt like we were over the hump, but we got into some trouble in 2010 that really cost us some customers and business and that sort of thing. But we had a employee who was stealing from the company, had worked out some kind of a deal with a reseller, and the employee was stealing from the company, and we had an accounting firm. We did an audit at the end of the year, and we were out a lot of money, and it was all in inventory. It wasn't in cash. It was So things were leaving the plant. Things maybe weren't even, they were getting logged in as if they were arriving and bills were getting paid, but they probably weren't getting paid.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably weren't taking possession of them. So between this person and the reseller, uh, who was from the area, we lost a lot of money, and it took everything, you know. And again, I'll say my wife said we got to keep moving it along, and we dumped every nickel we had into the thing, and the people pulled together. I mean, you know, the purchasing manager, the operations manager, and the controller at that time. In the evening, we would get together and look at what we had taken in that day, and we would buy with what money we had and plan, you know, for payroll and all that sort of thing. So, 2000, I guess that was 2009, 2010 was a pretty rough period. But I think all in all, it really helped the company come together. We became much more detail oriented. We really started looking at everything, you know, watching our inventories, watching our throughput in the plant, our conversions and all that. And the group really at that time pulled together. Now we were not a very big company at that point, and we really pulled together and got the business up and running. And I'd say shortly thereafter that we acquired a really large customer. David was working there with me, and we had you know, we felt like we had made it. I'd say by 2011 and 12, we started doing a 10-year goal and planning and things of that nature, and that really got us through. So it was kind of a, you know, I'll say 9 to 12. We kind of went from, boy, I hope we can make it, to we're going to make it. You know,
Yeah.
we got enough business now that we're going to make it.
Wow, that's like that was some dark time. Then what? I mean, from that,
Yeah.
what did that change? I mean, that was the action of one individual on the on the inside, and maybe one or two on the outside. But I mean, did that change your view of human nature, or how you viewed people?
Well, I don't really think so. I mean, if anything, it gave me a lot of hope that, you know, I had a pretty good team, that we were able to pull through it, that we were able to work together and pull through it, and get the business back upright. And if you'll remember, during that period of time, the banks were not loaning any money.
Yeah, that was a terrible time for something like this to happen.
Yeah. So we did make money during that period of time. It was small amounts,
Yeah.
but we did make money. And when I went to my banker and said, you know, we just need, you know, a $500,000 and we can get this thing squared away, he said, well, your company's making more money than the bank. We're not going to loan you any more money. So I think they were waiting around for the guys in the black cars to pull up at that point in time. So we got no outside help. It was really just through savings and money that you know, my wife and I had accumulated at that point, that we dumped back into the business and got it going. And we had a lot of good vendors during that period of time. Small company up here in Cleveland, Specialty Chemical. You know, they worked with us. You know, at times we couldn't pay them, and they worked with us, and they worked through it. So a lot of vendors helped us out during that period of time. They really did. So I'd say that, you know, if it changed my view of people, probably for the better.
That's good. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice folks chipped in, but you know that's I think probably is also a testament to your reputation, right? They knew that, you know, you were going to pull through.
Well, yeah, we worked really hard at pulling through, and again, people worked with us, and we didn't hide the fact that we had problems. You know, we were upfront. You know, when somebody called, a creditor called, either Doug or Jeff or myself called them back,
Yep.
or Steve Murrow, our purchasing agent at the time. So we had a really good group of folks, and we were focused on it. Like I said, we laid it out for our vendors and for our customers.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, it makes a big difference being open. You've been in and around chemicals as you've said since you were very very young, and the company itself, right? Colonial's what, about 35 years now?
37 years.
37 years.
Started in
So I'm
1987.
so looking back from that time to today, what do you say are the big differences in the business, and what stayed the same?
Well, I'll give you the same because it just came back from making 2 days of sales calls. And the same is, I think it's still a people-to-people business, despite how some people would like to treat it. They want you to go online and order things and that sort of thing. I think our business, the specialty surfactant business anyway, is still a people-to-people business. You still have to form that relationship with the formulator. You have to form that relationship with the supply chain, and they want to see you from time to time. I think you have to go, you have to see people, you have to listen to their needs, you have to meet their needs and work out as I say, sort of a win for both sides in that. So I think it's still a people to people business. I really do, and that to me is still the same. Different. Uh, I'll tell you this: the one part is we no longer dress up to come to work.
Uh-huh.
I'm the only person that wears a jacket and a tie to work anymore. And we no longer have a drink at lunchtime. So that's two things that.
Well, yeah,
But seriously,
you're right.
seriously, the biggest thing I think is the regulation and the documentation and the analysis of the products are just so much more detailed. I mean, when we first started out, we would do reactions, and what came out of the reactor we gave to the customer. But now everything is measured, and if you don't keep up on that, your business is falling behind. I mean, we've spent. I just hate to say how much we've spent on analytical equipment over the last 5 years to really be able to know our products and break them down. It's probably been longer than that, 7 years. And I just went on a call yesterday where analytical was discussed more than anything else. What are the impurities, how the reaction's going, and all that sort of stuff. So I actually had one of our analytical chemists with us. But in 1977, when I started in sales, if you needed a product, you went into the lab. The guy in the lab made it up. There was a simple MSDS at that point.
Yep.
I want to say I was in the plant when the whole MSDS thing started. It was one page. It was supposed to tell you what was going on with that product.
Yep.
Now it's 14 pages. I don't know, does anybody read them? And we're putting what used to be the one page as a label on the drum. So, it's gone. It's gone.
That's right.
It's gone full circle. And I think if we made a product and we all agreed on the safety, we might do an eye irritation test, or we might do a skin irritation test, and if that looked good, we'd take it and give it to the customer, and they'd put it in a formulation, and we'd adopt it. Now that's not the case, and it's just really so much that the customer wants to know, and we've, as a supplier, have got to provide it to them. But then you've got the whole governmental organizations and the NGOs that are involved and want to know about your products, or the customer wants you to meet certain criteria for the NGOs, and the government has not stopped asking for more and more.
Right, and it's state and federal, right? The states have got their own program, and the big ones, of course, it ends up being a de facto national standard.
Exactly. Yeah, we've seen that out of California, and now we've seen it out of New York, and there was some. Minnesota did some things a few years back that caused some changes in the industry as well. But I mean, you're not going to make your 50 states. You're not going to make a product for 49 of them and leave the 50th out. So you basically, when one of them passes a law, then you have to conform to that for everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'd say the biggest thing that I see as a hindrance to our business and a change in our business, moving forward, is there's just so much, in some cases, unreasonable or not understood regulation or documentation needed. We fill out these long forms for customers, and I just hope they read them and not just stick them in a drawer somewhere to have them. It's just.
Yeah, a box checking exercise rather than something that's truly, truly needed. Yeah, it can get out of hand. Okay, no, I see that, and it probably makes it harder for the smaller the company, the harder it is. If you've got a big organization, you can support a sort of an overhead, but it gets very, very difficult with small guys.
Yeah, we have really, early on made a decision that we were going to be in this game long term. We wanted people to be able to use our product overseas. So we spent a lot on REACH registrations. We actually have a full-time toxicologist located in Amsterdam who is our OR, works for our company. We're our own OR there.
Nice.
And we're filing all of our own REACH registrations and things of that nature. So it's helped us cut down the cost of doing it, and it's also helped us when we need to do a REACH registration. Barra knows how to do it, and he's can get the thing done, and the customer's much happier. But we're filing REACH registrations certainly on all of our important products, and not only REACH, but Australia's got their own thing, and now the UK will come up with their own set of situations. New Zealand's got theirs, and Taiwan, I believe, has some things going on there as well.
They do?
And then we've got China, which we do not animal test, so we have some trouble there.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people trying to thread that China needle to avoid animal testing, but get the products approved, and trying to figure out if they can be polymers or not. It's a bit of a tangled web over there at the moment.
Right. Yeah. We need some clarity there for sure.
Interesting. All right. Well, talking of overseas, tell us about Saudi. What have you got going on there? And tell us about the decision making and the process behind that deal. That's your first real overseas manufacturing presence, right?
Yeah, certainly. It's our second plant. So there is no one in Saudi Arabia with a surfactant plant like ours. There's people making LAPSA and other stuff like that, but specialty chemicals not really there. The area is growing. The government is looking to make this Vision 2030. In other words, by 2030, they want 70% of the materials consumed and things in Saudi Arabia to be Saudi made. And that's kind of a government mandate. You'll see Vision 2030 on a lot of things. You'll see Made in Saudi. If you look on the internet, there's a logo for Made in Saudi that you put on your products and things of that nature. And then on top of that, the world's largest oil company, Saudi Aramco, has a program called ICTVA, In Kingdom Total Value Added. So the companies that deal with Saudi Arabia get extra priority by having products produced in Saudi Arabia.
Nice.
So and two Saudi investors approached us with information about it. They were former Saudi Aramco employees and well connected within the country, and we started talking to them. We went over to Saudi Arabia and looked around, and we could see the growth is there. The money is flowing into that part of the world, as you may know. Certainly UAE, Qatar, and Saudi are all doing really, really well. And we visited customers. We went around, spent a week over there looking at land, but visiting customers and that sort of thing. And I think the thing that threw it over the edge to me, we were at a fairly good-sized household laundry place, and the guy was buying betaine. And I said, if we start a plant here, I said, will you buy betaine from us? And he said, not only will I buy it, he said, but I'll be compelled to buy it from you. And I thought, well, never heard anybody say that
That's
in all my
novel.
years of selling. So,
Yes, you
yeah,
don't hear
yeah,
that often.
no. So, we needed another location.
Yeah,
Our sales were growing in the South Pacific and Asia and India. We have sales in all those locations, which we can provide out of that plant. It seemed like a good fit. I came back. Doug Wynn went with me on that trip, and we sat down with David and we talked about it. We felt that it was an investment that if we made it and it fell apart, it wouldn't break the company. And if it turns out good, it would give us a lot of good publicity and being able to have two locations and make products less expensively over there. KSA has raw materials that are probably 20 to 30% cheaper than they are in the U.S. if they're made in Saudi.
right.
And even things that we bring in there are sometimes 15 to 20% cheaper.
Nice.
We can get them out of India and get them shipped in there. Actually, the first batches that we have made there is an oil field product called MEA Trizene, and we're actually shipping that to the U.S.
Huh.
So
Wow.
so not used in Kingdom, but we picked up a lot of business in the Kingdom, and we made our first batch in September 2023. A guy that ran StarChem, Peter Chetcuti. Peter's running the operation for us, and he lives over there and doing a really, really good job, and the business is growing. So it was quite when you start a company, you need something, you go get it. As you're growing, you acquire things like that. But here on the day we opened, we had to have it all. We had to have a program to run the
Yeah.
business and people and all that sort of thing. So the nice thing is, it is profitable already, and we're probably only 35% full in the plant
Great.
at this point. So we're working on that, and it's going to be a good thing. We're making a limited product line. It's kind of a high volume plant. It's automated. The plant was planned where in Tennessee, we stuck a reactor where we could
Yeah.
and grew the plant that way. We laid this all out. Gentleman by the name of Scott Hall, who was ex McIntyre Solvay, and Doug Wynn, our VP of operations, laid this thing out. They really did a great job. We really got room to expand it right in the buildings now. So we built it for expansion, and we've got land out there we can expand it on as well. So I'm really proud of that operation and what we've been able to do so far in a short period of time.
Yeah, fantastic. So you weren't necessarily thinking about Saudi Arabia or the Middle East before you were approached, is that it?
No, we weren't really
Wow.
thinking about it. And when we first started on it, I thought it might be a little bit of crazy, but
Yeah.
I'd never been to the Middle East, so we went and looked around, and between them and convinced. And let me say that the government offers a lot of incentives to come there. Without getting into the details, they're kind of helping you out to get there, and they want to see you there. We had some of the top brass at Saudi Aramco come over and inaugurate our company when we had our grand opening.
Great.
And people from the Ministry of Industry have been there.
Yeah.
So it's a really a welcoming situation there to get going. So the government is really trying to bring in business and get going, and our Saudi investors have just been terrific. I mean, they helped us where we needed help, but now that the plant's operating, they let us operate the business. We're the operating partners. We have 3 of the 5 seats on the board, and we're running it like we need to run it. But if we need help, they will help us out. I mean, they'll pitch in and help us out, help us get what we need. I would suggest not starting there without a Saudi partner.
Right. Yeah, sounds like it's that's pretty important. Great, that's great to hear. So what about what the next 5 or 10 years at Colonial? Like, what are some of the things you personally look forward to?
Well, I hope I'm there. No, certainly, there's going to be more IP developed.
Yeah.
We wrote the patents on the sugar chemistry,
Right.
and we hope to see that, we did that working with Tony Olenek, who's
Sure.
I don't know if you
I
know
know
him,
him.
but a
Know
guy on
Tony.
the
Yep.
outside. Tony wrote those patents. He developed the chemistry and wrote the patents for us and
Huh.
worked with us to get them to market and all that sort of thing in the early on. And then we had our own patents after that. But yeah, he did a great job working with us on that. And I think the expansion of that sugar platform, what we can do with alkyl polyglucosides as a raw material, will continue. Dr. Lucas Moore's come in, runs our R&D now, very big proponent of this kind of chemistry.
Yep.
We're going to continue to listen to the needs of the personal care and the HI&I industry, and the need for safer, more natural products, and we'll try to meet those needs of the industry. So we hope to keep growing our business. Maybe look for an acquisition or picking up a product line that maybe somebody wants to sell off.
Yep.
But mainly grow within new products and addressing new markets. We're looking at real hard at mining because surfactants are used there. Lucas has a background in that area and the coatings area. So, yeah, that's what I see ahead. Continued innovation along natural, safer products, because I think that's really where the industry needs. But we're certainly out there listening to the industry as well.
Yeah, that's great. That's a lot of cool stuff in the near future. So, yeah, I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of talk about how you run and have run things. You're, when you think about it, there's a very small number of people in this world of 8 billion that have started successfully a chemical company, and so, right, you're one of this very small set, and so I really. I'm kind of interested in the team building part of that, because you've talked a few times already in the discussion about how good the team was and the importance of the team. So, think about. I'd love to know how you make hires, the hires you've made over the years. What proportion of them work out? Because I'll tell you honestly, this in my time as a CEO, this is the thing I struggled with more than anything else, is figuring out who can do a job and how, you never know until they're in it, and I just I'm always intrigued with how people manage that whole process, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
Well, I always say that you're nothing without good people. You just I equate it to church. You can have an empty building, and you really don't have a church. And the same way with a business, you can have a lot of offices, but unless you have good people there working, and we've been blessed with good people, as I said earlier. I don't know the number of people I've hired. I will say I've had much more success hiring people in the chemical business than I did when I owned the Central Station Alarm Company.
All right.
Business, because I was constantly replacing salespeople and service people and that sort of thing.
Huh.
But I think, one of the things I've tried to look for is good people and let them alone to run the business. I mean, a lot of the operations was done by Doug and myself, and then later David and myself out doing the sales, and we didn't micromanage him. He ran it like he needed to run it, and
Yep.
We didn't overmanage him. We talked about the big decisions, but the little stuff we let people do on their own. And we've had a really people that have really taken an interest and tried to move the company along. So I'm just going to say that it's been a blessing. People like Doug, Jason Santola, Scott Hall, they have been just really a big, and I'm just hitting on a couple of them. And my own son and wanting to come to work in it, and my daughter, and we had a lady that does selling for us now, Tammy Thomas, has been there for years, started out in customer service and now is in sales. I mean, these were people that really cared about the business and, wanted to move it ahead, wanted to move it along. And being in the community that we're in, which is a relatively rural community,
Yeah.
I think people take a lot of pride in how that company does, because it's more visual in the community where, we might be one of we're probably one of 8 or 10 big businesses there, and there's just not that much there. So they want to be able to tell people they work for a decent company, and a lot of hard work goes into that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I guess if you were down in Houston, you wouldn't be such a big deal.
No, no, we really wouldn't be. We'd be small potatoes. But like this year, we just won again, and we've won it, I don't know, 6 or 7 times. I don't take it for granted. The Chamber of Commerce Large Business of the Year. And it's just the way we try to treat people and the things we have there for people, and what we're doing, and the fact that we are growing and hiring people. Doug Wynn set up a thing called Colonial Chemical University with the local community college, where we bring kids out of high school, put them through a 1.5-year program where they're working
Nice.
some and learning, but they're learning the chemical industry. They're specifically learning our business, and they might come in for half a day, 2 days a week, where they're mentored by a shift worker on shift, and they see what it's like, and they see that they can make a living out of working in the chemical business. And one of the things that we hear a lot is that you want your kid to go to college. Well, you can get out of college and have a low-paying job.
Yeah.
You come with us, you're gonna have a good-paying job with good benefits and good working conditions. But it is manufacturing, so you're going to get dirty once in a while.
Yeah, it's true, but there are dirtier jobs than a chemical plant these days. That's for sure. There are cleaner ones, but there are definitely dirtier ones. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, for our area, we pay excellent, and we really value employees. And if you have someone there for 2 years or 3 years, you've got a lot of money invested in them, and you need to take care of them and make sure that they stay and like the business. So I think this program that Colonial Chemical University has been a real success. In fact, we have a SOCMA meeting coming up in November in Charleston, and Doug's going to give a presentation on that whole thing.
I mean, it sounds a bit like your early years, right? I mean, the young kid getting exposed to the chemical industry early on. The next David Anderson may be out there.
He may be. Alcalac had a sales training program. So one of the things when I was working in the plant, when I got my degree, I moved over and started in this sales training program. I worked in every area of the company. I sent samples, I took orders, I worked in R&D, and I worked in the maintenance department. So I had worked all through the entire company and had exposure for 2 or 3 months at a time. I guess I was in that program for a couple of years, and then they put me out into sales directly. So it was really valuable. I thought that kind of training was valuable. Of course, I started in the plant, and of course that was very valuable as well. But yeah, I hope there's some people out there that want to make chemicals their life, and we found that in the community that we're in. We don't have a big turnover rate.
Fantastic. I want to be respectful of your time, but I want to get at least a couple more key questions in here, David, if you're okay. Let's talk about competition. You are competing with some truly enormous companies. Folks like BASF and Evonik are very much in the markets that you guys are in. So how do you do that? How do you flourish in the face of competition with these big guys?
Well, I think I mentioned customer focus before, but I think we want to help the customer. We want the customer to grow. We want to grow. But I think our ability to move quickly and our ability to give it to the customer the way they want it, when they want it, the way they want it, in the package that they want it, and at the price that they want, has really helped us to grow the business. It's many times you get into a situation where the formulator said, "I'd love to use your product, but I just can't make it work at this price." Well, what can we do to make it work so that you don't have to reformulate and we don't lose the opportunity to supply that product with you? So I don't think you see that in those big companies. have a price list. They send a sales guy out, and he has very little flexibility, or sales lady out, and they have very little flexibility in what they can do, or can they go back and change the product a little bit? Can they lower the pH if the customer wants it? Pretty much, you're going to get it the way it comes out of the pipe at some of these bigger companies.
True, true. No, there's plenty of room to
So
differentiate.
we're in the specialty business. People say, well, how many products do you have? I said, well, we got generally a number of classes of products, but within those classes of products, I mean, when I look at the list of cocamidopropyl betanes we probably have like 14, but they're all
Yeah.
oriented towards, maybe they're made from a fatty acid instead of a triglyceride. Maybe they're, to a certain specification, solid specification, different preservative system. That's how you really beat these other guys, because they're going to give it to you vanilla, and if you want it some other way, they're not going to give it to you.
Yeah, yeah. All right, sounds good. So, I've read a bit recently about, in order to build something successfully, you have to be optimistic, and I've definitely heard a lot of optimism in the last hour of talking with you. What in particular are you optimistic about today? Just in general, could be in business, could be in the country or in the world. What do you want you optimistic about?
I'm optimistic. I believe that no matter what happens here, that there's certainly a God who's still in charge and working on behalf of mankind. So I'll say that I'm generally optimistic. I'd not be here today without what I feel has been direction from God and a path for this business. So I'm optimistic that the business is going to continue, and that there's, I'll just say from a business standpoint, there's less and less competitors in this business than when I started. They just continue to I mean, you know that. You've been in it for a long time.
Yeah.
There's less people to compete against, and if we just continue to do what the customer needs, we'll continue to stay in business, and that's the optimism that I have. But, the acquisitions, consolidations by joint venture, private equity, they've all helped us grow our business. One of the best days of my life was when McIntyre got bought by, it was then Rhodia.
Yes.
I hope they don't tune in to hear that, but I mean, it really was. I knew that they could not. I mean, McIntyre was a terrific company and hard to get business away from.
Yeah.
And I knew that they could not operate at the level that McIntyre did. And, I think we modeled our business a lot after McIntyre. I mean, we had some of the same product lines, but, they had a certain attachment to the customer,
Yep.
and they did what the customer needed. We tried to model that, but as soon as Rhodia came in, and maybe it was Rome Polak, and then it became Rhodia, we knew that they would not keep up that same standard, and lo and behold, they didn't. And then they moved customer service to New Jersey, and people that the customer had been dealing with for years, now dealing with somebody else over here. So I think it's been. We still answer the phone at our place. If you call, you're not going to get an answering machine. Press 1, press 2. We still have a receptionist, and we answer the phone, and hopefully she can direct you to the person you need to be directed to on the first or at least the second try.
Yeah.
You're not going through and punching numbers and things. So, yeah, I think that I'm optimistic that certainly we're going to continue on, in that if we just focus on the customer and do things the right way and keep our quality up, we'll continue to grow our business.
Yeah, there's plenty of room for differentiation there, as you say. How are you on time, David? You got like maybe 5-10 minutes?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Let's. I want to knock off some of these final questions here. What about regrets? Any regrets, or at least any things that maybe you think you should have done earlier or stopped doing earlier?
Yeah, I don't know that I have any regrets, but I guess my biggest thing is we have along the way lost customers because we maybe didn't do the right thing or didn't meet their needs. And I guess if I started over again, I would have fought harder to keep every single customer we ever had with. every once in a while I'll say, well, we used, salesperson will go out and call on somebody, and I say, well, we used to have business with them, but something happened along the way. So I think customers are hard to acquire, and they're easy to lose, and
Yep.
you have to put so much effort into acquiring a customer that you really want to fight your hardest to make sure you keep that customer and show them the value of dealing with your company. So I just, I'd say that if I have any regrets, that we let certain customers, as we were growing, slip by the wayside. We didn't do all we can, but I can tell you that's changed a lot in our business.
Good, good. You see that type of answer, I wouldn't expect that type of answer from a company. Well, I won't name any names. From a company not like Colonial, put it that way. All right, daily routine on a work day. Like, what does a perfect work day look like for David Anderson Sr.? What are your habits? What's your routine?
Well, I'm not involved in the day-to-day there. Right now, I'd say it's changed recently since we've started up the Saudi plant, in that I have to get up early, and a lot of it I do from home, in that, I'm on the phone at 7 a.m., which is now starting to shut down their day
Yeah.
over there. And we're talking to either customers or talking internally to decide what we're going to do on certain things, or, meeting about capital projects and things that we're doing over there. So it's a pretty early start. I don't sleep in, and we're on the phone to Saudi, and then I'll usually leave the house and go to work. And right now, I try to at least take one day a week and not go to work and do something fun. So I think I'm trying to do more to retire and not get involved in the business. But it's real important, I think, that I continue to stay in touch with customers that we toll manufacture for and that we're involved with in Saudi Arabia, till we get that completely established over there.
That's a great segue into, when you're not working on Colonial, what do you like to do?
Well, we have a family, 4 children, 7 grandchildren, so spending time with the family.
Right?
My wife has been a pilot. We're no longer pilots anymore, but we are boaters. We spend a lot of time with the family at the lake house, and I need to spend more time traveling for fun and recreation with my family. So that's something I want to do in the future with my wife specifically.
Yeah.
And I think that that's basically what we do. I don't golf. I don't have any other hobbies that are burning up, But we do spend an awful lot of time with the family.
Yeah, yeah. So, last question, and it's a big one. You've spent a huge amount of time on an absolute basis, and a huge proportion of your time and energy building this business, right? So what's it for? What's the purpose?
Well, I think everybody has something to do. God puts you here to serve a purpose. We must work and do something productive, I feel, and I feel I've been led to do this. We have the company. It's certainly helped our family to live a better life. It's helped others to live a better life. I mean, the community has benefited from it. We have the ability now we have a donor advised fund, almost like a trust, to give to charity and things of that nature. And my children and the company, and we've done a lot of that. I hope that we've created an atmosphere for people to have a rewarding career and a good life for their work at Colonial. And I believe we've made a really good impact on the community there. And kind of like the same thing, if we were located in Houston, it'd be hard to make an impact on Houston, Texas. But when you're in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee, you see that you can make an impact.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago, their parking lot was full of kind of older pickup trucks, and I walk out there now and I look around. Everybody's got a new pickup, and everybody's doing, relatively good.
Nice.
I think that that we've helped the community a lot, and we've given people a good place to work, and that's what we're going to continue to try to do. And it's benefited me and benefited my family. And like I said, you got to do something.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's been a great ride for sure.
Yeah, it has been.
So all right, anything to add? Anything we didn't explore that you'd like to add, David?
Well, I think one of the things that you said, is there anything I can pass along
Yeah.
to somebody who wants to start a
Oh,
company?
right. Yeah, yeah. Any advice, please?
Say, you gotta have good people. I mean, you gotta
Yeah.
invest in good people. Look and afford the best people that you can afford. I mean, you gotta spend the money there. Uh, the next thing I'd say is, don't tolerate a lot of working from home. It's a chemical business. You have to collaborate. You have to be in there. You have to be a part of it. I go to so many places this week where people are not in the office, and I just think, how can you build a business? How can you take it that next level if everybody's not in there pulling together?
Yeah.
If you can't walk down and say to the purchasing department, how much does that cost? We got to put a price together. You got to contact them at home or something like that. I know it's not the most woke thing to do, but we never participated in the work from home thing during COVID, and I'm sure glad that we didn't. So I'd say that, and then I'd say to somebody who wants to start, you got to be up on the regulations, and you got to understand what's ahead of you there, and to focus on customer needs. I'll also say that we really benefited a lot by knowing our costs to make a product. A lot of people in this business, they take the raw material cost and add a factor to it, and that's what they go with. But do they really know what their costs are when you add insurance and all the other things
Yeah.
that are required? And eventually, that piece of equipment out in the plant's going to wear out.
Yeah.
So you got to have that, and you got to know what your costs are when you're in this business, or you're going to eventually go out of business because you don't have enough money to reinvest or do the things to grow the business. So that would be the barriers to entry when I started in 1987 to now are tremendously greater.
Right.
You better have a big pocketbook.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. David, I appreciate it.
So,
I've learned a lot. This is fantastic. Really is.
well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. I've learned an awful lot.